K4ZX6 here. I'm just gotten done doing a little repair wiring, I guess you could call it, and I wanted to make a quick video about it just for my own memory. This is in regards to my solar setup. My solar setup on the van. All the solar is for radio stuff. So all I'm powering with the solar setup is a battery bank in the back and the 5100 and a bunch of hotspots and Wi-Fi hotspot in the back. So I was having problems because my battery bank, it consists of different kinds of batteries. I'll show you that in a minute. Saying what was happening as the batteries were aging and in the low winter sun, not really giving the full oomph to the solar panels, is whenever I would transmit on the 5100 on a high power, it would make my battery bank dip below 10.5 volts, which would, and because the radio is wired up to the solar charger controller, which is set to cut out at 10.5 volts, because I don't want to run anything less than 10.5 volts on the hotspots, regardless of radio. Anyway, so it would absolutely cut out, and the radio has its own cutout as well at about 10.5 volts. So I was just trying to match that up. Anyway, so this is the first part. I gotta stop and resituate so to go over the rest of the solar setup. Oh, also while we're here, so that would be my voltage at the battery bank, and then the voltage coming into the radio is 13.1, 13 point whatever. Okay, and as you notice, the battery bank is only 12.6. And I know somebody out there goes, well, if it's running off the battery bank, K4ZXX, how come you got two different voltages? Well, I'm fixing to show you that. Alright? The first thing is that I actually had the car on, and that's making a difference. Well, I thought you said it was a solar setup. Well, it is a solar setup, but it is also supplemented by the car as well, or the alternator in the car as well. So let's do the solar panels, and we'll do the solar bank. Be right back. Okay, on the top of the truck, I have two solar panels. They are in line with the luggage rack, so you don't see the solar panels really at all unless you're in a truck. Sorry about the traffic noise. And then we got two hotspot antennas, and then we got one dual band antenna, and that's what they look like all mounted in there. So I framed it up with this aluminum angle stuff, and it's just one screwed into the side. Everything else just lays inside this tray, both sides. Okay. Okay. Solar bank. Okay. Extra power coming in. If you want to have a battery bank on anything that's hooked up to a regular alternator, it's okay to share the power, but only when you need to share the power. So in the middle of your screen you see a battery isolator, and that accepts the flow of electrons one way, and if you connect that yellow wire right there to a 12-volt source, it'll open it up and it'll go both ways. So that would be the, and that's what I just now installed, was that isolator right there. Now it's got a little red LED on it, letting me know that it is now sending power to this battery bank and this battery bank. Now, this is where the seats used to fold up in the back of this van. They would fold up and get underneath these things, right? And I don't run, this is just a work truck, so I don't really need, I took the seats out. And anyway, so there's 2 old car batteries. You know, I ain't got money for all the deep cycle batteries and stuff. You know, I gotta use what I got. So there's 2 old car batteries. They're not good enough to run as car batteries, but they're good enough to run as a battery bank. So once the system up front at the motor and the battery up front has charged sufficient, this thing cuts on and it'll send voltage back to the back. Okay, so the cut in is 13.3, cut out is 12.8, meaning anything less than 12.8 up front will cause this thing to shut down. All right, and then there's a, this is what I was originally working with, which is 12 little gel cells from UPS backup systems. So there's the solar charger, and then the hotspots and Wi-Fi. Okay, and then I could have used something different. I just used what I had, which was these lugs, and I just screwed them into the side. They got nice little spots for different kinds of wires, different sizes of wires. They're actually easier to use than a regular breadboard or whatever you want to call it. Alright, so there's the gel cells, and then I just use these cheap little $3 extension cords. You know, just wire up all the batteries together and put them on a little extension cord, and they all plug into another extension cord. So now the problem is, I guess, in the low winter sun, is the fact that these batteries are getting kind of old, was that I would dip below that 10.5 on here. And when I dip below that 10.5 on here and the 10.5 up there on the 5100, whenever I'd key up and stayed keyed up, if it dropped below 10.5, radio would shut off. So I needed that extra power, really. I needed to be on the steady power. So, but I still wanted it on the battery bank as well. And that's what led me to the isolator. Probably should have had an isolator on this thing anyway, how I had it kind of wired up. And maybe I don't even have it wired up 100% correctly, because I'm not really that smart, and not with electrical, or, I mean, I'm okay, but it's not my, you know, anyway. So that's how you do a solar setup. If you didn't learn anything, I can completely understand, because I'll show it to you one more time. And so the batteries are, you know, in parallel, and that little gray cord goes around to another little thing, right? And it's just easy to unplug those, really. That's why I use them, because they're easy to unplug and they'll handle as much power as I need to get out of these things. So if I hook up the yellow wire to a 12-volt source, like this battery right here, if I just touch it on that battery for, I think for 2 or 3 minutes, it'll shut this thing, or it'll open it wide up so I can get power from the back to the front. Let's just say I woke up tomorrow morning and my front battery was dead. I can touch that yellow wire to that guy right there, or that one right there, and it'll open it up to where I can get power from this bank back through a good wire all the way up front. And that's that gray wire right there. I just used some 240 or I don't know what gauge. You know, it's like a pigtail for a dryer. It's got, you know, a good thick strand of copper in it. Anyway, I think that's it. If you got any questions, just leave them in comments. If you got anything to add to that, if you see anything that I should do instead, let me know. I might have already done it and just never got around to explaining it correctly, but whatever. Just see ya.